Hey Wool Gang, and welcome back to Chestnut Woolen Mill. Today we're going to be putting on our thumb, and that is basically going to finish out our mitten. Now, thumbs can be very daunting. They actually really do look more difficult than what they really are. There are inherent issues when putting on a thumb, whether you're putting on a thumb doing a basic mitten or you're putting on a thumb doing color work, because we have to pick up the stitches. Excuse me, I just had to let the cat out. We have to pick up the stitches that we cast on to bridge the gap that our thumb gusset made so that we could continue working on our mitten hand. So I'm going to try to do this as simply as possible. Do not be intimidated. Over the years, I've put thumbs in, I've pulled thumbs out, I've put thumbs in, and I've pulled thumbs out several times on one mitten until I got it right. Thumbs, they do have their inherent little problems, but I'm going to show you a couple of tricks that you can use to solve most of those problems. We put 14 stitches on our stitch holder. I used a piece of yarn and you used whatever you used. Now we got to find the 2 stitches that we use, that we cast on to bridge over the gap that our thumb gusset made. Now if you stick your finger through, you will see, and I really do hope that you can see on this darker yarn, you will see that you have knit stitch, but you have 2 stitches that are kind of laying sideways, and you can find that on your piece. These are the 2 stitches that you cast on to bridge the thumb gusset. What you're going to do is directly below that sideways laying stitch is a knit stitch. This is leg 1, this is leg 2. You can see that, hopefully. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide my knitting needle under leg 2. Then I have another knit stitch right next door to it, leg 1 and leg 2. I'm going to skip leg 1 and I'm going to slide my needle under leg 2. And those are the 2 stitches that you cast on that bridged your thumb gusset. Now what we got to do is take our 14 stitches on our needle holder, and we need to put that onto our knitting needles. Now you don't have to be exactly even because we're going to start moving stitches around. I'm going to do 7 and 7. Because there are some tricks that I want to tell you about. Whoops, sorry, did not mean to hit the camera. There's some tricks that I want to tell you about that will make knitting thumbs a lot easier, a lot less intimidating. I'm just going to cut my holder thread and pull that out. So I have 14 plus the 2 is 16 stitches that I'm going to be working with. Now what happens is when you go to knit everything together, you're going, and this happens on every single thumb, you're going to end up with 2 little tiny holes or gaps, one here and one about here on your piece. And a lot of people, they don't care about those gaps. They go right around, they put their thumb in, and later on when they finish their thumb off, they go back and they sew up from inside the mitten, they sew up those little gaps that were made. And that's perfectly fine. If that's what you want to do, you can go ahead and do that. I don't like to sew. So what I do and have done for many, many years is I close the gaps by knitting extra stitches together. So that's how I am going to show you how to close those little gaps. Sometimes you get a wee itty bitty gap doing it my way, but you don't get a big huge gap, and sometimes you absolutely get no gap. So that is the inherent problem with thumbs. So the first thing that I am going to do is I'm going to twist my stitch around, and I'm going to knit through. Same thing with this one. I'm just going to change the direction of my stitch, pick up in the knits, and I'm just going to tuck in my tail and knit. So now I've got two. These are the two stitches that close the gap that we picked up. And I like to tuck my end tail inside my mitten. It just makes things just a wee bit easier. Okay, here we go. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the next stitch, which is this particular stitch here. If I just go to knit this particular stitch, and I'm going to try to show you, I'm going to end up with a hole. And I don't want that. This is what I'm talking about, where you have to do some sewing on the inside. What I'm going to do is I am going to pick up this stitch and put it on my needle, and then I am going to knit two together, and see how it kind of closed that up a little bit. And I don't know what the heck I did here. Let me see, it looks like I separated my stitch. And then I'm going to knit another stitch. So I have 4 stitches on my back needle right now. And I'm going to continue. Okay, so I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then on my next little needle, I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now what I want to do, once again, if I knit the 7th stitch, and then I go, and I'm going to show you what will happen if I just kind of go on in the round, you will get another gap on this side. If I was to do that, see that big gap that you're going to get? So we want to fix that. So you have knitted your 6 stitches. Now on stitch 7, I'm just going to transfer this off really quickly. Make sure I don't pick up my yarn tail. And I am going to aim for this stitch, slide this back on, and knit 2 together. Now, if this is too complicated for you, don't worry about it. Just knit along, and you'll have a gap, and later on you will have to sew that gap in. Now, I'm going to take and knit my first needle, knit the round in. Your back needle is going to be your first needle. You may want to put a stitch marker in between these 2 stitches on your 3rd needle so that you can remember that this is your last knitting needle, last part of the round. And I'm going to knit. This is all knitting. Like I said, thumbs are slightly tricky. And it's that gap that makes them very, very tricky. Now you have 16 stitches. And you can absolutely rearrange your stitches. You can slide a stitch or 2 from needle 3 onto needle 2 if you need to. That's perfectly fine. And you are going to just keep knitting in the round. Like I said, over the years, I have put in thumbs and taken out thumbs and put in thumbs and taken out thumbs because of that weird little gap that you get. And you're going to do the knit in the round until your thumb measures approximately 2 1/4 inches. And I am going to come back when my thumb measures 2 1/4 inches, and then we will shape our thumb by doing some decrease rounds. You can pause the video now. Okay, well, gang, here we are at our 2 1/4 inches. Again, this is where customizable knitting happens. If your thumb is slightly shorter than my thumb or slightly longer than my thumb, you can adjust the pattern to fit your fingers comfortably. Now we're going to measure our 2 1/4 from needle 1. So it's the back side of this thumb, the underside. And that about puts me to 2 1/4 inches on needle 1. And I do use my husband's tape measures. I also use his, I steal his DeWalt bags that his power tool equipment comes in, and I use them for knitting bags when we travel. Comes in handy. So this is right around where your thumb is going to be. And now we are going to do the 3 decrease rows, and then we're going to finish off our thumb. Now we're going to start with needle 1. Let me detangle myself here. And it is going to be, this is our first decrease row, knit 2, knit 2 together, like that. And we're going to knit 2, and we're going to knit 2 together. And we are going to knit 2. This is my 3rd needle. That's the 2nd knit. And we are going to knit 2 together. And we are going to knit 2. Knit 2 together. And that will leave 12 stitches on our needles. The second decrease round is going to be knit 1, and we're going to knit 2 together in my little wonky and wobbly way. And we're going to go on needle 2, and we're going to knit 1, and we're going to knit 2 together. And we're going to knit 1, and we're going to knit 2 together, And I'm going to knit 1 on my 3rd needle, and we're going to knit 2 together. And now for our 3rd and final decrease round, we are going to knit 2 together. Thumbs are wonky. And we're going to knit 2 together. And I'm just going to slide, adjusting the stitches on the needles. And we're going to knit 2 together. And we're going to knit 2 together. So now you got 4 stitches. I promise you, we're almost done with the thumb. You got 4 stitches. And now we're going to cut a length. We're going to sew it all up just like we did for the top of our mitten. Just like in the top of the mitten, we are going to go around and sew through those. Remember, you're going right under the knitting needle, and I do it 2 times simply because of reinforcement. These are my barn gloves. I'll remove that. And there we go. And I'm just going to pull tight. Down through the center. And give it a good pull. And now you're going to turn your glove inside out. And you are going to just weave all your ends in and cut them. Now, here's where the wonkiness can happen. You may have a little bit of a separation, like we spoke about at the beginning of the thumb. When you turn your mitten inside out, you just sew over that. Some people really do like to reinforce the sides of their thumbs, and that is perfectly fine. But even every once in a while, you just get that little gap. You can either leave it there or you can actually sew it up. Whatever is your choice. Now, I am going to post the very last video to this series, and that is knitting the left thumb gusset. So when you're going to do your left hand, you're going to do the cuff just like we did. Then you're going to find the left hand gusset video. You're going to do that work, and then you're going to proceed just as we did with the right hand for everything else. So it's just the left thumb gusset that we have left to put into video format, and that will be up very, very shortly, and we will link everything in the description box below. Thank you, everyone, for joining me on this basic mitten knitting journey, and we have quite a few more videos in store that we will be uploading. If you like this series and you're interested in knitting some more with me, think about subscribing to our channel. Give the videos a like, maybe even save these videos in your playlist. Those things actually help boost our channel up in the algorithm, and we can bring more videos directly to you as they upload. You will be notified if you are a subscriber. Ladies and gentlemen, Wool Gang, thank you so much for joining me, and have a great and happy week. Happy knitting, everyone.